Unreal Engine Education 5. Lesson 4. Different nodes inside the blueprint and their functionality. So today we're going to look at different nodes that will be useful for your code. So to start with, we'll look at a node called setActorLocation. There is also setActorRotation and scale. You can summon them separately or together, just as I did. So what they do is they literally set the location, rotation, and scale of an given object, of a target object in the world. There's also set relative location and set world location. So what's the difference? Set world location sets the location of an object in the game world, so in this world. And set relative location sets the location of an object in the blueprint world. So every actor blueprint or blueprint which has a viewport has a separate world within itself, just like here. And so it has its own 0, 0, 0 position and relative to this position coordinates. So relative position is the position relating to this blueprint, this relative position. The next node would be play animation. It's a very simple node. You just play the animation, the given animation on a given mesh. The next one is a very useful one. Cast to node is used mostly in collision and stuff. So what it does is it checks if the given object reference is a reference to the specific type of blueprint. And if it is, it returns the direct reference to this blueprint. And yeah, and it goes. And if it fails, it goes cast failed. So for example, in this case, we get player character, but we get it as a character object reference. And then we ask if this object is a BP third-person character, which is the name of our blueprint. And it says it is, so we set it to a variable. The next node is a branch. It has a condition input of Boolean, and if the condition is true, it goes true. If the condition is false, it goes false. Pretty simple. So, besides token nodes, we'll also talk about arrays today. So, we'll know that you can set a different type of variable on a variable you created. You can also create a structure for this variable. So, you can make it a single, so one value, with all of that. And then you create an array. There's also a set on the map, but we didn't cover it here. So an array is a list of values, so of a given type of variable, Boolean in this case, and they are basically numbered. But we start numbering from 0. So and then each number, or what's it called, index, is connected to a specific value. So for example, this index 0 is connected to false, 1 false, 2 true, 3 false. And as an array variable, you can get the variable and set the variable. But you can, if you want to get a specific value, you should drag out of it and search get a copy. What does it gets the value under the specific index. So like in this case under index 0, which is false. And you can also set the variable by the node set array element. This sets the value of a specific array under a specific index to a specific item. So like under index 0 to true, like that. The next node we're looking for is a for loop. So what it does, it goes from the first index you give him to the last index you give to him. And for every index you go through, it runs loop body. And it gives you the index. So like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. That's it. Yeah. So there's also for loop with break. So a for loop with break is basically a for loop, but it has a break input. So in any moment in the loop body, you can drag out an execution pin and plug it into break. So when it goes to break, it breaks the loop. So it basically cancels out and goes to completed immediately without going further into the loop. no matter where the break occurred. If that was the first value, the last value, the middle value, it just stops and goes to completed. Next type of loop is a for loop. I mean for each loop. So for each loop requires an array. And what it does, it goes through every element of the array, and for every element it runs the loop body, returning array element and array index. So it goes array element false index 0, array next one false index 1, next one true index 2, next one false 3, done, completed. So a for each loop is the same of for each loop with break is the same of for each loop, but it also has an execution pin. It's similar to for loop with break. You can just add an execution pin to the break and it'll break the loop and it will go to complete it immediately. One last type of loop is a while loop. So this one has a Boolean input condition, and it will run the loop body as many times until the condition becomes false or while the condition is true. Thus, the name is the while loop. So in this particular case, it gets of array of booleans, it gets the item under index 0, which is false, and not is a also very important node. It reverses a value of boolean. So like true goes to false, false goes to true. So in this case, it goes get under x 0, which is false. It goes not false is reverses true. So it's true, it runs to body, and then it gets set array element under index 0 to true. So the next time it checks it, it gets uh, true, not true is false, it stops the loop. So an important thing to consider using the while loop is the while loop should make the input condition to false at some point in your code. Because if it doesn't, if it always is true, it will run the loop body continuously until it breaks your computer. It will break your computer, or if being realistic, it will give you an error. So the next node is a sequence. So it has a execution input, so an execution goes in, and then what it does is basically splits the execution on as many executions as you need. But it doesn't run them simultaneously. It runs then one, then it runs then 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. The difference between the runs is the slightest difference possible, but it still goes in order. So keep that in mind. And then the last logic node is a gate. So what a gate does is basically it is like an actual gate. So if it starts closed, if you try to enter to a closed gate, you cannot exit. If you start open and you try to enter an open gate, you can exit. So and then it also has a open and close input. So which is opens and closes the input. You don't need to know the toggle. So a couple more nodes. Delay is a latent node. It will stop the code at this particular point for the given amount of time, which is measured in seconds. So in this case, 2 seconds. Yeah. So it works just like that if you don't use it in a custom event, because custom event doesn't wait for latent node to be completed. And then another one is a print string. This is a very helpful node in while debugging. So with us, it prints a string you give to him and prints it in that kind of way. In a top left corner, it prints it like that. And then there's a bunch of different settings: print to screen, print to log text, color, duration, anything you want. And the important thing is that it's development only. So what it means is when you actually build your game outside of this editor, like when you for example publish a game, this will not be shown in the game to the player. So it's only for debugging. And then an append node is a nice combination with a print string. So what append does, it has multiple string inputs. You can add more, and then it combines them all into one string return, going in order. So the element 0, then this, then this. So it would be, the return value would be the element 0 is this, and then is equal to 1. Okay, so now let's talk about event nodes. Event nodes are helpful because you need to start your code somehow, and that's where they come and play. So event begin play is one of the most common ones. It executes it starts the code it's connected to when the play begins for this specific blueprint. For example, when it's already placed in a world and press the play button. Or if it's not in the game world when I press the play button, it will be executed when this blueprint is gonna be spawned and the play begins for him. And since there's event begin play, there is event and play, which executes when the play ends for this particular blueprint. For example, when it gets destroyed. And there's also end play reason. If you need it, you can use it. Another interesting event is a event tick. So what event tick does is it executes every single frame, or 1/32 of a second, or 0.2 of a second. So it executes very fast, and it doesn't wait for one execution to finish. It runs another instantly. And there's also delta seconds. So what it is basically it shows how much time has passed since the activation of the event tick. So yeah. And then another um, event which will execute your code, we need a actor component for that. I mean, an actor blueprint. And we also need a collision. So on component begin overlap, what it does, it executes when some object overlaps or enters this particular collision. So it runs the code and it also gives you the overlapped component, which is this collision, and the other actor which overlapped. And here, that's where your cast2 can come and play, so you can check if that object which was overlapped is the object you want, for example, the player. So yeah, a couple more interesting nodes. One of them is spawn actor. It spawns an actor blueprint under you can spawn anything pretty much, and at a given transform, so location, rotation, and scale. And then another and last one of them is random. So there's just random, there is random in range. So random boolean or random float is like just any random type of number. So since boolean has only two values, which is true and false, so it returns either true or false. And random float in range, it generates a random float from the minimum number to maximum number included. So it returns a float from 4 to 5, and you can do it with int or boolean or vector, even anything. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for this lesson. If you have any questions, feel free to tell me.